Okay, part 3 of fixing up a 1918 Buick E49. I bought a front bumper for it. It's from a 1927 Buick. I got to figure out how to work it. But what we're doing here, since the engine is stuck, I'm working on unsticking it. The radiator is out. The hood is off. The mud guard, which goes on the bottom of the engine, is off. And I took off, well, there's the headlights. They're down on the floor over there. The fan, and the fan pulley, that's off. Those are the headlights, see, right there. And the main thing is I took off the timing belt cover, timing gear cover. Doesn't have a timing belt, it's got timing gears. That timing gear goes to the water pump and generator. That timing gear goes to the camshaft. See how it's directly below the push rods? That's a camshaft. And there's a crankshaft. See how it's exactly where the crank, for the starting crank is. And below where the piston. Those are the cylinders. Valve in head. Jug head. You can't take the head off. See, there's no place to remove the head. The head comes off there with that bolt, and the jugs come off with it. That's why it's called a jug head engine. I'll be taking the valves out. They come out through the top. They're in valve cages. Okay? Okay, it's a few days later, trying to unstick the engine, trying to figure out what's stuck. I got the water pump shaft out. Turns out the generator is stuck. The water pump was stuck briefly. I was able to get it to turn. Here's the water pump shaft. The front gear that goes in with the timing gear. There's all the bearings in the front, and there's the water pump. And I'm going to put that back in tomorrow. Look at all the rust I got out of that. That's the water jacket hole right there. The water pump goes into that. So for all the time they were driving the car, I kept on shooting that rust back into the engine. And it was just staying in there and had nowhere to go, so it kept getting bigger. It keeps the outflow of the coolant is that. Well, I got the water pump shaft back together, the whole thing, including that whole job is all done. Engine jack back down again. What I'm doing now, the end of the last section of the video, I showed you about a 3-inch pile of rust that came out of that hole. I'm going to see what happens if I go like this. Oh, look at that rust coming out. Well, no, not that bad. It's pure water coming out of there. No, I got a lot of rust out of here, but I think I pretty much got it. I was using this wrench to pull, I think I must have got about a pound of rust out of here. I'm not going to worry about it anymore. I would have thought that all the rest of the cylinders would have an equal amount of rust all around them in the water jacket. But I guess that's the spot where it collects, and I got it all. All right, good. What's better than that? As you can see, the car needs a lot of work still. All I'm doing is trying to get the engine unstuck. That's all we're doing so far. The body is still just as bad as before. I got the clock to work. See that clock over there? It winds and it tells time. It actually works. Here, there's a 1940 Buick over here. That's another story. 1940 Buick. Please touch, but don't look. That's a good car. I'm taking that to a car show now. This thing runs like a top. This one over here, Look at that. Look at the amount of work I got to do. But I'm just worried about right now getting the engine unstuck. Everything else. I took the radiator out. He told me it leaks. Good news. Without headlights, well, I had to take the headlights off to get the radiator out. Because the radiator doesn't just lift off because this crank thing is in the way. Alright. So much for video number 3.